SEO is one of those industries where it's not like any other industry. Like I think a lot of people who end up calling themselves SEOs were people who got started online, fell for the whole, make money online thing, thought they were going to make easy money online, realized that it actually takes work and they weren't very good at it and, didn't have a lot of success. And then they just decided, well, I kind of know a little bit about SEO, so I'm just gonna try to offer that as a service now, even though they'd never ranked any of their own pages well, or it's a shame. But I've never seen that happen in any, somebody doesn't fail out of law school and end up as a lawyer, representing somebody in court. Um, but SEO, there's so many people that it just seems like they fail with the whole making money online thing on their own and just decide, you know what, I'm going to offer this as a service for people
Dude,
and
that's the
make money that way.
truest thing.
It's unfortunate.
I want to start with this question because I think it's
Sure.
a fun question to start with. Um, are you seeing anything crazy in SEO at the moment?
Um, I mean, the whole AI rage, I think, is something that we've never seen in the industry before. Um, that's been interesting to watch, and it's one of those things. It takes me back to even just, I mean, there's been multiple examples of this, but the most recent I can think of is when Google was releasing Core Web Vitals, and there's all these people pushing services for optimizing your Core Web Vitals and hooking people on that. And now I'm seeing the same thing with the whole AI optimization, LLM
Geo,
optimization,
generative
Geo,
engine optimization.
AEO, yeah, whatever they want to call it. And there's some people that really know how to do it, and I think there's some value in doing it. But there's just so many people like all of a sudden
When you
offering that
say
as
when you say people who know how to do it, how do you consider it different from normal SEO?
um I think there's I will say I think like 80% of it is the same as normal SEO. I think a lot of it is the same. I think there is a little bit of a difference though in things like writing style and the way you produce your content, how it's structured, to show up more often in when people ask questions of large language models. I think, and some of those principles are still the same for Google and other search engines too. But I think there's a little bit more leeway with search engines where the large language models, I think you have to be more direct in your content. If you have a header that says, what is the Philadelphia Phillies record in 2025? You shouldn't start with, well, after a slow start and a rough June, the Phillies find themselves in first place in the NL East, 5 games ahead of the New York Mets. It should be Philadelphia Phillies record is 79-57 or whatever it is right now. Like you need to be more direct with an answer right away, I think, to show up more often in the large language models. Um, and I mean, there is some truth to that with search engines too, but I think search engines you have a little more leeway than you do with the large language models. It's a little more, I don't want to say robotic, but that's the best way I can think of describing it.
Craziest, craziest, one of the craziest AI SEO things that I've seen is from this guy Harpreet. I'm actually going to have him on the podcast in a few days, and you may have seen this, where he shared that he was buying cheap press releases, writing. Yeah, yeah. You want to share that?
No, go ahead. You,
Oh
you
yeah.
probably
Okay.
know it a little better than I do.
So Harpreet, he writes whatever he wants about his company. He says he has like the brand name. He says we are five stars. We're the best at so and so. Writes his press release about it. Distributes it probably through Fiverr. And the Fiverr people, I believe, are just using a $500 per year package on AB Newswire. And that 500 per year package on AB Newswire gives you enough press releases so that every press release basically comes down to like $6 spread throughout. And then they probably just split it amongst themselves, the package.
Yep.
And so he writes his press release. It's distributed through AB Newswire through one of these Fiverr people, and then ChatGPT, Perplexity, and AI Overviews all quote the press release when people ask queries about the company. Now, I'm not sure how well it would work for non-branded searches, but for branded searches, it works really well.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing with large language models is if you have a brand, you need to control the message. and you have every opportunity to. And you just need to treat your brand or your business like any other real business. And press releases, Apple releases press releases, Best Buy releases press releases. All the big companies release press releases. You should be doing the same thing when you have something press release worthy. I wouldn't release a press release like the example that you were going over where we are the best at whatever kind of thing. But when you have something
But I
newsworthy,
mean,
you should
it's black hat,
put it out there.
but it does work
It does. It works right up until it doesn't, like
until it
all other
doesn't. Well,
things. Yeah. But
what
it
I
is
would
working right now, and that goes back to what I was saying, where I think the large language models you have to be a lot more direct, and if you do give it that direct information, they're gonna just regurgitate it right back out. They're
yeah.
not as good. I don't think yet, anyhow. They're not as good with smaller brands and smaller markets. They're not as good as at telling the truth from, um, you like you said, with just a press release, you can influence what they say about your brand really easily. Now, if it's a really large brand, I think it's going to take a lot more than just putting out a press release. Like journalists need to pick it up. It needs to be published on big newspapers, stuff like that for the large language models to pick it up. But if it's a small brand that nobody really knows, yeah, you can absolutely just blast out a press release and you can pretty much control the narrative.
If you have a consultancy or yeah, like a small brand and you are trying to shorten sales cycles, people do their due diligence and then they Google the brand name and an AI overview comes up quoting your press release. This method of marketing is so effective, I had to make sure it wasn't against Google's rules before I kept doing it. It's a form of SEO I call compact keywords. Whereas most SEO focuses on putting up articles to answer questions how, what, when, compact keywords focuses on putting up dozens of pages that sell to searchers who are actually looking to buy. These pages rank on Google and convert so much better than normal that when I discovered this years ago, I couldn't believe this was allowed. It's less work too. The average compact keywords page is only 415 words. Compact Keywords is a 13-hour deep course on getting sales with SEO. A customer recently said, "Each lesson is dense with information. You're giving years worth of experience boiled down into 15 to 30-minute lessons with no filler or fluff. I feel like I'm gaining a new superpower." Compact Keywords is about setting up an SEO funnel that brings you sales for years and years and years. It works with AI, it's less work than traditional SEO, and it makes way more money. You can get it now at compactkeywords.com. Back to the podcast.
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
trick though is to not link back to your site. A lot of these sites that are where the press releases are distributed to, they're not great sites. And like you said, until it goes wrong. So I think having that not linking back to your site kind of mitigates risk.
Yeah, because you want to be careful. If a press release is distributed on a lot of kind of shady sites, you want to be careful that you're not doing something that's going to benefit you in large language models but hurt you in search, traditional search. So yeah, I think you have to be careful with that. And I think someday, as the large language models continue to evolve, they're going to get better and better at figuring out what sources to trust, what kind of information to trust. And they're pretty good at it now, but I think they're going to continue to get better where tactics like that are not going to be as effective.
So here's my question to you. So you mentioned writing for AI. You were describing, writing questions and answers that AI picks up. How useful do you find that to really be for simple queries where it's not where you're not really looking to get a unique perspective and not it's not likely that the LLM is going to hallucinate?
I find it to be really effective. Now, for really simple queries, the answer is probably already out there, and it's been done a
I
thousand
mean
times.
effective is
But
as in is it going to actually generate people that you can convert?
yeah, I think if it's brand related, simple queries, absolutely. If it's simple queries like what's the best project management software, and that's the industry you're in, it's going to be a little more competitive. People have put out a bunch of content about that, and it's going to be a little harder to show up in those kind of things. It's a simple query, but it's going to be a little more difficult to show up in something like that compared to um, if you made it a brand related search, like is ClickUp a good project management tool or is Monday a good project management tool? those are a little easier to show up in when they're more specific like that to the brand. If you publish that content on your website, um, or other properties that you control. But yeah, I think it's been pretty effective for me and my clients so far.
But I mean, I guess I mean more so the more top of funnel queries that you mentioned. You mentioned, what was the example that you gave? The baseball example that you gave?
What is the record of the Philadelphia Phillies?
Yeah, something like that. Like how helpful will, whereas like in the past, you have a baseball site, you do all this stuff, and then that generates people who come to your site, you turn them into email newsletter subscribers, so on and so forth. But now, for a query like that, how useful would that be?
Um, I would say not very, um, unless you're a big site, because what's going to happen for a query like that, it's large language models are not updating every day, so it's going to have to do a search. And when it goes into a search, then you're going back to large language models. It's closer to traditional search. It's some variation, but so you need to rank well in whatever search engine they're accessing to get that information, which you're probably not going to outrank ESPN and MLB.com, and, the big sports sites
Oh, I'm
in a
not
case
even
like that.
saying with like the AI, the press release trick. I'm just saying like going after those very top of funnel keywords in the first place, because I I mean the last I checked, this was with AI overviews, so not ChatGPT, but AI overviews decrease. This is from Ahrefs to decrease CTR by 34.5%.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's tricky because yeah, the clicks are going away for top of the funnel content. Um, at the same time, I think you still need to target those for traditional search because when you look at your site's topical authority and overall authority on a topic, you still need to cover those top of the funnel topics, even though they may not bring you clicks, they may not bring you traffic. You still need to cover them. Um, so it's kind of tricky, but the clicks are like disappearing. You're not getting the kind of clicks you were getting from those top of funnel searches anymore. But I think it's important to show up in those for if people are going to AI overviews or they're going to ChatGPT and doing that research, you need to be showing up in those queries, the top of funnel queries in the AI engines, and so that when they do come back to Google, hopefully they're searching for your brand.
Yeah, I had Rand Fishkin on a few months ago, and he said the brand recognition is still important.
I've always been a big advocate of building a brand, promoting your brand. Um, yeah, I think that's where a lot of at least small companies I see go wrong is just not really focusing on the brand enough.
Yeah.
And I come from a bit of a marketing background and past experiences. Um, I just think building a brand is just it's vitally important and always has been, but it just gets ignored so often.
Yo, it's crazy how many people don't even put like about pages into their website.
Yep. Yep. And one thing that's funny, I work with clients all different sizes. I have some small to medium sized companies. I have international large corporations I work with, but a lot of the small and medium sized companies, when I start working with them, I'll ask them for their brand guidelines, just so for any content we're helping to generate and produce and content briefs, I want to see their brand guidelines, and I would say 60-70% don't have any kind of brand guidelines set up.
So
It just blows my
what do you
mind.
think somebody who wants to succeed with SEO, what should they be doing with brand? Like what do they need to, I guess, guidelines, pages, best practices?
Yeah, I think I mean you certainly have to have the about page, like that's just dead obvious. You need to have an about page, a story that's interesting. Um, I think you need to tie your brand into a lot of your content. I see a lot of companies that produce content, and um, as an example, one company I work with, I have a non-disclosure agreement, so I don't think I can say them, but they do server hosting for video games. So like if you want a Minecraft server to host with your friends, they rent out servers like that. And so many of the competitors will publish all this content about optimizing a Minecraft server and hosting your own Minecraft server and all the different mods for Minecraft servers, and they never mention their own brand and tie it back to their brand anywhere in the content. They'll maybe include a link to Minecraft server hosting is usually what they'll use for the anchor that leads to their sales page, but they never tie the brand name into the service that they offer. And I think that's a huge mistake. And something I always try to do with my clients is when we're producing content is tie those in, because I want search engines, I want large language models to put those two things together. Yes, we offer Minecraft server hosting, but I want that brand name to be recognized as a Minecraft server host. And I see so much content out there that just never mentions the brand at all. So much of that, top web host for this, and they just don't really tie it back to the brand and the mission of the company. So I think that's really important. I think press releases are underutilized, to be honest. But I think people use press releases the wrong way. That when they are using them, press release, it's not an article distribution. Okay, that's not the goal. It's not the goal is not the links you get from the press releases. That should never be your goal. The goal is to have journalists, have website owners, have other people pick up that content and write their own story about it and link back to your website. Like that's what you should be wanting to have happen when you do a press release. It shouldn't be just getting, press releases published on these press release websites, which are, they're publishing hundreds of press releases a day. You're going to be buried in there in no time. The links are worthless, or near worthless. The real goal should be having something that's newsworthy and having something that other website owners or journalists may want to pick up and write a story about. And that should be the goal. And I think those get really underutilized, or the companies that are using them, like I said, are just completely misusing them, and just treating them kind of like an article dump. Going back to the old days of was it e-zine articles and article base and all they're treating it just like that, just tossing articles out there. Um, so I think those are some things that brands miss out on that I see, aren't doing enough of. The, I'd say smaller and mid-sized brands, large corporations, like they have whole teams doing this and they're aware of it. They're usually on top of it. But I see a lot of companies that could be doing it so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I talk about bottom of funnel SEO on this show a lot, and I say, when you're targeting bottom of funnel search engine, when you're targeting bottom of funnel keywords, those are the types of pages where you want your brand name in it, because you're targeting a keyword where somebody knows what they're looking for. They don't know the brand to go with. And you're like, hey, this is what you're looking for, and we're the brand to go with. And here's a brand name. And yeah.
And I think it's even more important with the AI and large language models now, because like I said, if you mention the brand and let's say it's Acme Corporation and we do Minecraft server hosting, and you mentioned that we do that, large language models aren't just giving you a list of 10 websites like the traditional search. They're giving you the words like, hey, Acme is a great place for Minecraft server hosting. Like they'll put those things together and repeat it back out to people who are doing searches about that stuff. So I think it's even more important in the age of AI, large language models and AI search, that you're tying your brand into the service that you offer, because you want these large language models to regurgitate that.
I was trying to remember why I was having a deja vu with the Minecraft server hosting keywords, and then I remember it's because you use that as an example in your extra
Yes,
long page title. Yeah, so
I did.
so I made a for listeners, for viewers, I made an episode on your article, which was write extra long page titles, absurdly, obnoxiously long page titles, 200 words, 250 words, and
Characters,
characters,
characters.
excuse me. Yes,
Yeah,
thank you. Oh my gosh, characters. And yeah, and I thought that was so interesting.
it's it goes against the traditional keep your title tags under 60 characters thing that everyone's been preaching for years, and it's something it's been a while since I paid attention to the 60 character limit, especially going back a few years. Google rewrites, they started getting more aggressive with rewriting title tags anyhow. So I just have always figured I'm going to put in there what I want in there, and what I want. It's one of the biggest, I think, tools that you have in on page SEO, and biggest impact drivers of your on page SEO. So I want to write them the way I want, and I'm going to write them for a little bit more for search engines. I know a lot of people like to write title tags to engage clicks and things like that, but my philosophy has always been if you want a better click-through rate, rank higher, and you'll get a better click-through rate. The top three, you're going to get higher click. You can be number seven and have the greatest, most enticing title tag in the world, but nobody's going to see it. So it doesn't. You're not going to improve your click rate, your click-through rate with that. So I started a few years ago writing these longer title tags and kind of experimenting with them, and then recently this year there was an article Joy Hawkins had put out showing some examples that she really pushed the limit even farther than I was at the time, with some title tags that were like 250 characters long. And there was another person that did it that
How
was
long do
mentioned
you
in the
think you
article, but
could go? You think you could go to like 1,000?
you know what? I haven't tried that yet. I I don't see why not necessarily, but I think at some point there's probably diminishing returns, and so at some point you're kind of just going to be repeating
Yeah.
yourself over and over again. If you had a really, really long article on a topic though that covered several facets, you could conceivably come up with a title tag that could be that long and you'll cover different things that are in the article though.
Why do you believe the extra long page titles work so well?
So what I try to do with these extra long page titles, it's not just a long title. Basically, what I do is I generate 3 to 4 titles that could stand on their own. Like I would use, like this would be a great title on its own that I would use. And then I put them together and separate them with hyphens. And what I found happens most often, and what I do is I try to do like slightly varied search intent on the same topic. Um, for example, let's say we're doing accounting software. So I might the first part might just be accounting software. Then I might have hyphen, um, automate invoicing and expense tracking because that's what people are looking to do with accounting software. They're trying to automate their invoicing often, and then another hyphen, and I might have something like I'm just thinking off the top of my head, manage cash flow, payroll, taxes with ease, something like that. Because that's another kind of action people are looking to take with accounting software. So I put those three together, separated by hyphens. And what I find happens, they're slightly different search intent, but pretty close, but slightly different. And with the whole replacing title tags thing, Google will usually pick one of those three options now. Instead of writing their own, they'll usually pick one of those three, and they'll pick the one that most closely represents the search intent. So if somebody was looking for managing payroll software, they'll pick the one that's I what was the example I used? Manage cash flow, payroll, and taxes with ease. They'll use that part of the title tag, and that's what they'll display in the SERP. So I try to, like I said, just include some slight variations and that kind of hit a little bit different search intent. Things that are covered in the article, though. I don't stray from anything that's not covered in the article. Um, if you're doing like order fulfillment, I'm going to have something about order fulfillment at the beginning. I'm going to have something about, the second one would probably be something about delivering products quickly for your e-commerce store or something like that. Something that's what people are looking to do. So somebody may not know that it's called order fulfillment. So I want to hit sort of different ways that they might search for it, um, which is order fulfillment is basically delivering products that people have ordered from your e-commerce store. Um, so yeah, I do those variations, and every time I've done it, when I've taken a page that existed and I changed it to one of these longer titles, I've seen minimum like a 10 to 15% increase in traffic on them. Some of them we've seen like 30, 40% that we've done this with. And a lot of the ones I'm doing now, we're starting with a title tag like that, so I honestly don't know, what the increase would be over traditional title tag. Um, and I just, like I said, I stopped worrying about Google. A lot of people say, well, Google will cut off the title if you have a really long one and you get the ellipses. I hardly ever see that happen anymore because they rewrite them usually if they're too long. So I just don't care about that anymore, and I'm just writing the titles that, like I said, just trying to hit a couple different search intents, and it's been great so far. And I know that article Joy shared some examples too, where I think they saw like 20, 30% increase in clicks from doing it as well. So I just think it's one of those old SEO guides that people have held on to for years and never questioned. and I think it's one that's it's time to let it go.
I like these doing things that are against standard best practices.
You always got to be testing. You know, things change. Google changes their algorithm all the time. You always got to be testing, and um, you don't stick to things just because everyone says, "Well, that's the way you know that's the way we've always done it."
Is there
That's
anything
that's a
else that
terrible reason to do something.
is there anything else that you're doing that goes against like the standard dogma in SEO?
Um, I'm trying to think because so many of the things I do, it's just kind of naturally the way I've done it for so long. Um, I spend zero amount of time on meta descriptions generally. I don't care what the meta description says for the most part. I'll try to include a keyword here and there just because Google will sometimes bulldoze if it matches what the person searched for. But honestly, for probably about a decade, most of the pages that I create and I'm working with clients on, we leave the meta description blank. Unless it's a very, very narrow, specific search, like an about page that I want to control, maybe the meta description a little bit more. I leave them blank. And I started doing this years ago. One of the best sites to reverse engineer, I think, is Wikipedia because they rank for everything. And you can argue, Google maybe gives them some favoritism because of what they are and the benefit they offer the internet. But I noticed that Wikipedia they don't write meta descriptions for their pages. And they rank for everything. And what happens is Google back then used to, grab a snippet out of the page that related to the search that was done. Um, Now they generally will just rewrite something from the content and use it that way. And I either spend very little time on meta descriptions or I just leave them blank. And I'm not a big believer that they impact click through rates, any kind of significance. It's maybe you move your click through rate like 1%, tweaking it and playing with it, and I just don't think that's time well spent. I think again, going back, I said before, if you want to improve your click through rate, just rank higher. That's the best way.
All right, so what's the Pareto? The 20% of things that you can do to get the 80% of results for just rank higher.
Um, I think title tags are big. I think I think your content structure, the heading structure. I don't think people spend enough time on that. I think they kind of will copy. Well, here's what the top 10 websites. 7 of them have these headers, so I'm going to use those too. Um, I think if you really spend some time though, focusing on the headings that you're using, um, and maybe being different than competitors. There's a whole concept out there called information gain, and there's patents about it. And basically, what it says is that there's certain things Google expects and search engines expect to see in content about a topic, but also they look at if you have something unique and something different that most sites aren't covering, that site may get an artificial boost because of what they call information gain. So sometimes I think it's good to just look for a different angle than what everyone else is covering. Um, don't make something up just for that sake, but if you can come at something with a slightly different angle in part of your content. But the big thing, I think title tags, I think the heading structure, um, and one thing I try to do with the heading structure in a lot of the content I generate is I try to make a lot of them, probably 80% are questions. Because going back to search, Google, other search engines, they've always been, it's an answer engine.
You're doing this
Most
for pages that target both top of funnel and bottom of funnel, or just top of funnel?
both, both, because people are, a lot of, I don't know what percentage, but a lot of times when people go into search and do a search, they're asking a question. They're looking for an answer to something. So if I create a heading that matches the question that they asked, and then right after it, the first sentence we're answering that question, I'm going to have a better chance of showing up for that search. So I think those are, that's probably where I spend a lot of my time. And just overall, the other thing I think I do that maybe gets overlooked by some people, and I think a lot of people try to do this, but I try to have uh, a grander strategy than just, we're gonna generate 4 pages of content for this site this month and start thinking, brainstorming ideas. Like, I try to generate big topical maps, have a strategy laid out for a couple months of the content we want to build and generate around a topic, and not just throwing out. I'm not just going into tools and looking for keywords that get high volume. I'm trying to make sure that we're covering a topic in its entirety, which I think is, again, goes back to large language models. It's been a benefit with that. I think it's really important with that. Um, Covering topics. I know topical authority is a big buzzword right now, but it's something I think a lot of us have been doing for
Yeah.
well over 20 years.
It's a basic of
Going back to
SEO.
silos. It's going back to it's we called it silos back 15, 20 years ago. Now it's a little more advanced today than what we did with silos, but it's kind of the same sort of concept. Topical authority, I think, is even more important with large language models, because when somebody does a search in a large language model, they're not doing just that search. Large language models, when you ask it a question, they're doing. I know a lot of people have been talking about this recently and on LinkedIn and different places with SEO, but they're doing fan out searches. So when you ask a question to a large language model, it's not just asking that question. It might generate 15, 20 different searches that relate to that. And it's doing all those searches, looking around all those topics, or those answers to those things. So if you have good topical authority, chances are, if it does 15 searches, you're going to show up in 12 of them, 11 of them, and you're going to have a better chance of getting cited in the result. So I think more than ever, I always thought topical authority was important, but I think more than ever, it's becoming even more important for that reason.
Eight. Okay. Pareto for building topical authority.
Um, God, it's a really big topic. Um, I think having a good topical map, generating that, which is a whole topic on its own that you could go into for quite a while. Um, we talked about this earlier, but there's part of a topical map is the source context, which basically is, why does your site exist? What does makes your site? What does your site or your business offer that's of value to the internet? And also, how do you make money? How's the site monetized? We talked about that earlier, like tying everything back to what you offer. I think that's really important for topical authority, and so many sites fail to do that. Um, yeah, I think the topical map is the most important thing for topical authority. Like, really spending time on figuring out what content you're going to produce, what deserves its own page, what deserves, it's going to be a part of other pages. Really spending the time there. Once you get that done, like getting the content, either generating content briefs, giving them to writers, or even generating content with AI, like that's the easier part. The topical map is where you should really
Yeah.
spend the time planning things.
It's a huge mistake that webmasters or aspiring SEOs make, is that they just don't put enough thought into their information architecture, into literally thinking about the search intent of the keywords that they're targeting, into having rich descriptions of their company and how it fits into their niche, and then they use those descriptions in directories and in marketing blurbs and all this sort of stuff, and people just go at it just really without thinking. And it's your brand. It's everything.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes I think I've seen people make with that over the years is just they base almost everything on search volume,
Yeah,
and what
man.
what gets
Oh
what gets searched the
man.
most. And I've made this argument for years and years and years. Like, I don't care if a term gets searched 10 times a month, but it's going to bring my client paying customers.
Yeah.
I'm going to target it. And especially, sometimes it depends what you're selling, but I have clients. One example I always used was, I have a client that sells, they're called styrofoam densifiers. I worked with is
Cool.
actually a friend of mine. Basically, what they do is they take like an entire room full of styrofoam and they condense it down to something that's like 1 foot by 1 foot for recycling. Um, these machines cost like $60,000-$70,000 a piece. So if I find a search term that only gets searched 10 times a month around that topic, even if it brings in one lead a month, it's totally worth it to go after that, because they just need a couple sales a year, and they're a $500,000 company. Um, so yeah, I just don't think search volume is. I think it gets. I think too many people put too much importance on it. It's not that it's not important, but way too many decisions are made based on search volume and keywords. I try to focus more on topics
For
and
me,
making sure
this
we're
is
covering the top.
this is one of the most fun parts of SEO because usually the higher trafficked, the higher search keywords, more search volumes, those are the ones that are more competitive, and oftentimes those keywords are also more top of funnel. And so not only do they take more work to rank well for because they're more competitive, even if you are ranking number one, they're not going to bring like very many paying customers
Sure.
or clients. Whereas the purchase intent keywords, these are the keywords we're, that we're talking about. Lower search volumes, and because they're lower search volumes, a lot of webmasters and a lot of SEOs and a lot of digital marketers, they don't want to go after them because they're like, oh, the search volume's too low. But little do they know, not only if they rank number one for this, it's going to bring them customers because the purchase intent is very high, but also with these types of keywords, Google has such huge gaps to fill that if you rank for number one, you're going to rank for many more. You're just naturally going to. It's one of the coolest things. It's like my SEO course, Compact Keywords, is literally about this because very few people realize it. It's the biggest opportunity, and I think it works for pretty much all niches too.
I You're preaching to the choir. Yeah, I don't. I think you should go after keywords and search terms that are going to bring you paying customers. Whatever the search volume is, whatever you mentioned the broad terms, and obviously they are a lot of times more competitive. I think you still need to target those in order, for your site to have true topical authority. I think you still need to go after those, but
All right,
with the
want to ask you a
with
question.
the real with the realization that you're probably not going to ever rank for
I want to ask a question
number
though.
one.
Why do you have to go after those keywords, and why not instead just write about things that you're seeing in your industry, changes that you've made to your business, new features that you put in, new services that you offer, like redefining your brand, explaining it more, experiences that you've had, case studies, all
Mm-hmm.
of these things, which don't necessarily target keywords, but they are heavily related to your industry, to your niche, and to your topic. And how come doing that wouldn't be just as effective?
Why does it have to be one or the other? Why not do
Because,
both?
well, because targeting these highly trafficked top of funnel keywords, then you have to write a really long page. It like
Sure.
not always, but I mean like if it gets a lot of traffic and it's really competitive, so you're doing all sorts of things for that. You're building links to that specific page. You probably do want to have in more content. It needs to be even more thoughtful, more researched.
But see, that piece of content is going to support everything else you're doing across the site. It's going to show search engines what your site's about, what you offer, what you cover. It's going to fan out
Can you give an
into
example?
everything else you do.
Like an
Yeah.
example keyword
So
that you might target?
um, let's say you're doing project management software. Okay. You may never rank for, project management software is going to be Monday, ClickUp, Asana, probably Notion, even though they're terrible at it. There's going to be 7, 8 big sites that if you're new in that market, you're not going to rank for it. But that's your core of what you do is project management software. You have a tool that covers that need. So you still need to cover it. It doesn't mean that you put all your emphasis behind it. It doesn't mean you put all your resources into it, but you still need to cover it to explain to give search engines a better idea what your site's about. Now you can still target all those buyer keywords, and you absolutely should. And that's where the heavier focus should be is content that's going to bring in buying customers faster. But I think you still need to cover, have something broad about project
Mm.
management software,
So you're saying
somewhere on the site.
you're not necessarily trying to rank for best project management software, top project management software tools. You're literally just
You would,
writing about the industry, and
yeah,
you are having keywords inform what you are saying.
yeah, you would love to rank for those, of course, and maybe someday you will. I think you have to be realistic, though. It's not going to happen if you're new in that industry. It's not going to happen anytime soon. But I still think you need to cover those and target those in order to rank. I think it helps you to rank for all the other things that you want to rank for if you do it that way. Um, I don't think I think you limit yourself too much by going after only the smaller, long tail keywords out there. And that project management software piece, maybe it will never rank for project management software, but a lot of times if you do it well, it's going to rank for a lot of other terms that could bring in um, either buyers or helps with brand recognition. And again, also goes back to large language models. If you want a large language model to understand that your site, your business is about project management software, you got to cover that. So you can't just ignore it and go for the buyer keywords only. So you should be doing both.
But I'm just thinking like, why couldn't I just write about industry news in project management software? And maybe then naturally you're going to talk about your competitors as well. And
Yeah.
then new features that's still industry news.
Um, I don't think covering just news though is going to bring buyers and users into your. Not enough of
Right.
them.
But we're talking about topical authority.
Yeah. Um, I think topical authority though goes beyond news. It's not just about news in the industry. I think that's a good thing to cover sometimes if it's worthwhile. Um, Topical authority is way if you're targeting project management software, you want to cover things, topics around project management itself. You want to cover things about Kanban boards, Gantt charts. What, assuming that you have those features built into your tool. Um, so I think it's a lot more than just news. If you only go after industry news, I think you're just going to be limiting your reach quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I really agree with that. And talking about feature sets and best practices and all of this, it's definitely very important.
Yeah, one example. I think it's Jira has they literally built like a resource center that covers agile project management, and then it'll go into um, stand-up meetings and huddles and all the different types of meetings that you have in agile project management software or project management. All the different roles that are involved in agile. Like it's basically a Wikipedia for agile project management and then also project management. And it supports their tool. And it's funny if you go in and look at some of the pages. Um, there's a lot of those pages that, according to SEMrush anyhow or Ahrefs, are getting 15, 16, 17,000 visitors a month. It's very top of the funnel. It's not necessarily buyer intent,
But
but where it's helping is
at that
it helps
volume,
brand
yeah,
recognition
that too.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, absolutely.
And that volume, you're going to get some sales.
Yeah, you're going to get some
Uh,
sales, and I mean, with that volume, it's going to be. I completely agree. It's going to be super useful. I do wonder though, like how I mean, that's a big brand where they can just put up pages and then rank pretty easily within their niche.
but I've had success with this with a smaller brand. Um, I have a client that's in order fulfillment, logistics. They're a 3PL. The big ones in that industry are ShipBob, ShipMonk. Um, there's another one, Ship something. So there's these big competitors. ShipBob has all the money in the world. They're backed by some Middle Eastern money, and they just have a ton of like they're great at what they do marketing wise. But we've had some success where we built a kind of a resource center of common terms in the industry, and a lot of those pages rank pretty
Mm.
well and are getting some traffic. It helps with the brand recognition. So it's possible now if ShipBob decided to do the same thing, they would probably outrank us for that,
You know
sure.
what?
Um,
I
and it also helps with internal link opportunities then too.
Oh yeah.
Every time we mention a term like demand forecasting, we have a page about demand forecasting we can link to or link back from. So it gives some opportunities around internal linking for the site as well. Kind of, it's kind of like what Wikipedia does, where you see links all over the place to definitions and things like that of of things in their articles, and we do the same thing on that site.
I think
And I've
it,
had
I
other
think
clients where we've done that.
I think it comes back to keyword gaps, because like I would assume that in project management, keyword top of funnel keywords are pretty competitive, just given the
Very.
niche and how it ties to marketing very often. But in 3PL, I would assume that a lot of glossary terms are not as competitive because there's less savvy marketers, less savvy SEOs in that niche. I'm not saying there aren't savvy
It's
SEOs in that niche, but I'm saying that it's just less competitive compared to like project management.
it is less competitive, um, but in project management, like Jira is the only one I've seen doing that, and
Really?
I keep a close eye on that
Wow.
that industry. They're the only one I've seen do it. I've seen it in other industries like Ramp has a similar section on their website for they do all kinds
This is a
of
cool
like
strategy.
expense
The
management.
glossary strategy is really cool, and it totally makes sense how it's gonna. Of course, it's gonna help with topical authority. When you're making a glossary, are you using AI to make the content, or is it all human
S-
written? How are you finding the
yeah.
terms?
So that's one of so I'd used this idea going back years. The problem with it years ago though was it was very resource intensive, and not every business wanted to pay writers to generate 200 pages of different terms in their
Oh,
industry
sorry. And
and
one more
put all that
question is
together.
like, how
Yeah,
long is one of these pages gonna be?
sure. Um, in one of the so I have on my website the SEO Pub. I do a weekly newsletter that goes out where I give out different tips and things that I do and strategies. And one of the first ones I did after ChatGPT was released was mentioning how now if you want to create this sort of resource center for a site, AI just made it way easier to do because it's very usually these sections on a site are very bland and boring. Like it's not super. You don't need super engaging content written by a professional writer necessarily. It's very like kind of Wikipedia style, matter of fact type of content, which AI does really well. So since then, yeah, we've been using whenever we do it, we use AI with a human going over it just to check up on things, remove all. Now we have to remove all the damn em dashes everywhere. So, um, but lengthwise, a lot of them I would say are 600 to 800 words. Um, Not super long, and some of it on the depends on the topic, the industry. Not all of them really require something all that long. But what we try to do, when I create one of these pages, I'm trying to find one as an
Is it pure
example.
text or are there images as well?
I've done some with images. Most of it is text. So we'll do like if we're doing, I mentioned demand forecasting earlier. So like the heading structure will be something like, what is demand forecasting? Why is demand forecasting important? Um, what are some methods of demand forecasting we would cover? Real world examples. Um, I usually like to have a section of like related terms, so which just helps with some internal links. It gives us chance to link to other of these like glossary and terms pages,
Are you using tags?
and then we'll
Like,
do an FAQ
are you
FAQ
building
section.
a whole system to interlink?
Um, I'm not using tags, but we do a lot of internal linking on these pages. And one thing that I did, it's funny. So a company came to me recently that had a section like this, and it got largely de-indexed. It all went into the was it crawled, currently not indexed
Yeah.
on Google Search Console. So what we did, and what they had before that was going back to the example I just said. So they would do their heading instead of what is demand forecasting, it just said definition, and
Hmm.
then the top title would be demand forecasting and just a definition. Why is it important? Um,
So wait, wait,
they,
wait.
they had
So
examples.
their H1,
We
their
made it
H1
more.
was the keyword, was
Yeah,
the term, and then the first H2 was definition, or
it would just say definition, and then they'd have a definition below it. So what we did instead is we came in and I would change that to what is demand forecasting, like make it a little bit more descriptive, not just the word definition.
You wrote it the
Why
way
is
that
it
searchers
important?
would write it.
Exactly. And then one thing that we added too that I think made an impact was none of these pages had a call to action at the end. We added a call to action at the end. So if it was demand forecasting, it'd be something like uh, how to improve your inventory management with better demand forecasting would be the heading, and then call to action to get a quote from this company or um, whatever the call to action was. We added in this call to actions, and we had there's 130 pages I think it was that got kicked out of the index. So far, we've changed the content on 90 of them, and all 100%
Oh
are back
man,
in the index.
fantastic.
So, yeah, it's worked really well by just making the best way I can describe it is we just made the content a little bit more semantically deep. Um, just added some more examples. We added an FAQ section. Like I said, we had that call to action. We changed the headings to be a little bit more descriptive of what it is, and so far every page that's been changed that way, and it's all AI generated. Now I created a GPT to specifically for the brand for what we were creating. So it's got some guides, and it's not just Chat GPT on its own running wild.
Can you talk
And it
about that?
has,
How are you creating a GPT for the brand or for a brand?
yeah, it helps a lot if they have a brand guidelines. Going back to that, if not, I will I'll feed ChatGPT a bunch of content of theirs, and ask it to from that to create me some brand guidelines. So it'll look at their writing style, their things that they do, and it kind of creates some guidelines. I'll review it with the customer first before we use it though, just to make sure it's in line with what they're thinking too. And then I create a document with that I feed into the GPT. I have a whole bunch of documents around semantic SEO, writing instructions, so that it writes in a certain manner, and all that stuff I feed into the knowledge of the GPT. Then in a case like this, I would feed it. This is the general structure we want to use for these pages as we create them, and then we just kind of go from there and let it do its thing.
What are some common mistakes that ChatGPT will make when writing SEO copy that you have to like guide so that it doesn't make these mistakes?
Um,
Aside from removing M dashes.
yeah, the M dashes, and there's a lot of common terms I think that you want to get rid of that are just huge markers that it was written by ChatGPT. The whole like in the fast-paced world of
Yeah.
snail racing.
Yeah. Remove
Delve,
buzzwords, remove
yeah,
emojis, no words like
get rid of
delve,
those.
remove dive in.
Um, I don't. I think it. I think with some guidance, it will create better headings. But if you just let it go on its own, I think it tends to create some of those more kind of boring, non-descriptive headings uh, on content. I think you have to whatever when I create a GPT to do this, I don't ask it just to generate the page. I ask it to go one section at a time. If you have it just generate a page, the content's going to be so much worse than asking it to go one section at a time. It's slower and it takes more time. It's a few extra prompts, but the content just comes out so much better when you do it one page at a time. I think you need to give it an outline or a full content brief to follow the content. Otherwise, I think it goes off the rails sometimes. Doesn't stick to um, it. It'll fill in a little bit more fluff and not stick to the topic as tightly as you want it to. I think those things are important. You know, the, messing around with ChatGPT 5, like it's doing a pretty good job of writing content. But I just want to get rid of those obvious AI markers. I used to like to write with EM dashes, so now I have to just completely get rid of
Yeah,
all of them because
same.
as soon as somebody sees it, they think it's AI written. Um, and yeah, I think you need to give it a solid outline to work with, and if you can, a full content brief to work with.
Let me tell you what happened. I'm not going to say the software because people know who this is, but it was someone who was head of what are just the major SEO softwares. There's Ahrefs, there's SEMrush, there's Moz, um, And so this head put up a post on LinkedIn about how much this, I can't even, I'm not, I don't want to reveal the person, but about how much the person hates SEO content. Not SEO, sorry, AI content. How much this person hates AI content. And the
It was
person had,
written by
it had M dashes in it. It had M dashes in it.
AI. Yeah,
Yeah, and I was pretty certain that it was written by AI.
that's the thing. Like, and it uses them correctly, but ChatGPT just goes crazy. I was just
You can,
generating
even if
a
you
piece of
say
content the
don't
other
use
day.
the M dash, it
Yeah, it
still
won't
uses it.
listen. And it'll do, I generated a piece of content yesterday that was editing, I want to say it was like 3,500 words, and it had 37 M dashes in it.
Oh my
Like,
God.
that's just, it's insane how often it uses them. Now, some of them were in pairs, where it's putting one at the beginning of a section, one at the end, but still 37 in a 3,500 word.
I
Two,
just at
two would
this
have been
point,
acceptable.
I just replace all M dashes with the normal dash. That's my solution.
I do that. I do a mix. I do that sometimes. Sometimes I break it up into two sentences. Sometimes it's a comma
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
replace it. So I do a variety of things. The easy solution is just replace it with a dash. But even then, I think it's using, it's just way too frequent
It's very
in the content.
frequent. It's very frequent.
And I don't know what it was. I think it was when ChatGPT 4 came out that it
Yeah.
started,
Hmm.
or 4.1. And it just fell in love with those M dashes, and that drives me nuts. And also, when you copy content from ChatGPT into an editor, all those damn spaces on the bullet points that it puts in between the bullet points now,
Mm.
um, that drives me a little crazy too.
Yeah, I have to
Gotta fix it.
remove. I have to just replace all of this stuff.
Yeah,
I think one of the most interesting things if we talk about AI content, I've been making a lot of episodes, a lot of content about this in the first place, and I forget who shared this on X when I first found it, and it was somebody who said we have the winner of the June core algorithm update, and it was this website called AI Invest. Have you heard of AI Invest?
I haven't.
Oh my
Let me see.
gosh. Okay, so it's been around for a couple of years. It's invested heavily in its brand. It's invested heavily in Eat. It's really impressive. It's active on all social media platforms. Um, they literally, so all of its content is AI written, but they're so serious about brand that they literally hired a Fox News anchor to quote unquote, this is what he says on LinkedIn. He says to give a human touch to AI invest LLM powered content. And if you go to the site, it's writers, a bunch of its writers, like it has different writers for different niches. A bunch of
Mhm.
the writers' profiles says this is an AI, says this is an AI. In their
Right.
about, they say, we're AI written content. All of their social media content is made by AI. It's synthesized by AI, including the descriptions for their YouTube videos, which like the YouTube video will be like a capybara talking to a monkey about the price of Bitcoin. And that's all synthesized with AI with prompts and it's all automatic. And so it's Mike, it's crazy. They okay, right before the June update, this was like June 25th, they were getting I think 300,000 visits a month from Google. Very good. They were getting 300,000 visits a month from Google. Now, they are getting around 6 million. They
Jeez.
20x'd
Wow.
with entirely AI written content because they've invested in brands so much, they've invested in Eat so much. I mean, they're active on all social platforms, all AI written content. I've never honestly, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this, and I'm also wondering like, I have seen a lot of publishers that have gotten crazy boosts from the June update, but
Mhm.
nothing like this. And I'm also wondering like, how long is this going to continue for?
That's Google's not against AI content. They're against AI content at scale, like crappy AI content at
This is
scale.
good. This is okay. The thing
And
that I forgot to add. This is a
so,
really good content. I mean,
yeah,
but it's written by AI
and
and it's covering financial topics.
yeah, and like you said, they invested heavily in their brand. I think that's a big difference compared to what you see a lot of people try to do with AI, where they're just starting a new website and just posting 5 times a day, and it's just crap. It's stuff that's copy and pasted directly from ChatGPT. So yeah, I think from what you said, they invested in their brand and it's good
They
content.
scaled up.
That's a
They
difference.
scaled up
And
the
it's
pages slowly.
they're not hiding. that they're using
Right.
AI. Where it's funny because everyone else is trying to hide that they're using AI. They're just putting it right out there and being completely transparent about it. And I think that's probably a good approach.
I think it's a good approach, but I
But you
also
got to have the
wonder,
brand.
they have the brand, and they scaled the pages up, like they didn't just go from like 0 pages a day to many pages a day. They scaled it up slowly, but I'm also wondering, it's literally AI written content in finance, and I'm just shocked that it hasn't been hit yet, because
So
I don't think Google wants AI written financial recommendations.
I worked in banking for 8 years before this business, and I can tell you from personal experience, I think AI is a lot better than a lot of the brokers and investment
Yeah,
bankers that
yeah, yeah,
I came across.
but there's no
So
oversight. I assume that there's also no oversight with this content.
um, I don't know. I don't know if they have
I don't know. I'm assuming.
professionals on staff that know the topics and are editing and
If there's oversight, then it's different.
yeah. Um, people are worried about AI with the whole your money, your life topics, but I don't know. I've come across so many incompetent people in those industries as it is. Like
That's true.
I don't necessarily, I tell people all the time you can't just trust AI, but at the same time you can't necessarily trust the first broker you come
This
across
is
with
this
your
is very
retirement.
honestly, your response is very interesting. So, do you think that it's actually a solid strategy if you invest in brand, if you invest in Eaton, if you invest in socials, if you have like, like a real website and a real brand, and you're active in lots of different places, and you have beautiful design, and you're thoughtful in your prompts, do you think you could scale up an AI written, like AI, a website with tons of AI written pages, and you're open about the fact that it's AI written, and that would actually be a good long-term strategy?
I think you could do it. Um, I think you would want to have some human oversight, and I think you would want to mention on the site that there's human oversight on this content.
Mm.
I don't know for sure that Google would look at that, but I feel like maybe they would. Um, I think it can certainly work. I don't see any reason why not. You got to invest in the brand though. That's the difference. Like NerdWallet could publish a bunch of AI content right now, and I think they'd be fine because it's an established brand. Everyone knows it. What's the Motley Fool? They could probably do the same thing. Like there's brands out there that could do it, but they've established a brand. That's the big difference. And they probably could get away with publishing a lot of AI content. Um, it's not the AI content that's bad. I think it's it's the crappy content that Google is against at scale. So I think if you're pushing out good content, and I think in a finance industry, I'd want to mention that it's overseen by a human editor or professional brokers or whatever that you're using. I think that would help, and it also would help I think with conversions. If you're selling something on the site, obviously people want to trust you and know that you're not just recurred. I'd want to know if I'm reading an article on your site that I can't just go to ChatGPT and get the same thing back from it. So I'd want to have a reason to trust you. So I think it could work as a strategy. It's not necessarily something I would advocate for everybody because I think you'd probably have to spend a couple years really building the brand properly.
Well, yeah,
It's not something.
they've literally been in business before the release of ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's you would really have to spend a few years building the brand to do that. And most people that are looking to do something at scale are looking for quick wins. They're not going to be interested in making an investment like that
Did you
of time.
see what other winners did you see from you don't have to name names, but like maybe niches or themes from the June core algorithm update?
Um, I definitely saw some publishers that did better than others. I saw some sites that have gotten hit in the past, like the helpful content update. It seems um, not every site for certainly, but there seem to be some sites that are recovering. I haven't had a chance to really dig into those yet, but I've seen their traffic, seems to be on the upcline. A few that I was tracking. Um, Myself, I've had some clients. I mentioned the game server niche. We saw, significant improvement in rankings after the last core algorithm update, um, and we've been doing a better job. Like we've really been pushing out good content. Um, Funny thing is, it's all AI generated on this particular
Wow.
client. Um, I
But
have
it's
somebody
but
who
it's but
is
it's human reviewed.
it is, and I have somebody who is really really. I'd recommend anybody that wants to um, use AI for generating content, follow Kevin McGuire. He has put together a GPT right now that I think he's going to monetize, sell it eventually. It just generates content like it goes through. So it's a lot of it is based on. I mentioned Corey. It's based on Corey's framework and kind of topical authority, and it goes through this huge process before it even gets to the point of generating a content brief, and then generating the content. Like it's really producing some good. Pretty much anything that we publish ends up ranking in the top like seven within 2 days. Um, a lot of it top three, top five. So that's a site that I saw get a nice boost, and it's all AI. Like I said, it's pretty much all AI generated. There's a few things that we do human written, um, and it's edited by humans pretty heavily. Um, those were the big ones that I've seen. I haven't. I honestly, I had a surgery shortly after that update and was recovering for a while, and I didn't get a chance to dig into um, the winners and losers too heavily this time around. But I did see recoveries seem to be more prevalent than past core updates in the past year.
Yeah, there were a lot of smaller recoveries from the HCU. Uh, and then there were just some sites that went, I don't think these were initially, I saw smaller recoveries from the HCU, whereas like it still paled in comparison to the peak from these sites that were hit.
Yeah, yeah. When I say recoveries, like they're not back to where they were, but the crater that they went into is on its way upwards. Yeah, they're probably still at like 30% of where they were, 40%
Yeah,
of where they were, but compared to 2%, it's a big improvement.
yeah. Whereas like some publishers just, I mean, I've seen this from a few publishers have just gone absolutely bonkers with like the new heights that even my personal website edwardstrom.com has gotten a boost from the June core algorithm update with a lot of top of funnel content on my
Nice.
site because my what I do is I just I don't actively try to rank for SEO keywords with edwardstrom.com, but I have a weekly newsletter, and then I take that newsletter and I publish the content from the newsletter to my site afterwards, and then I say, are there any keywords that I could just like target in 5 minutes? I don't care that much if it ranks, but it's 5 minutes of work, so I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And I've still seen a boost from the update
Nice.
to my site. Yeah. You're in New
Good.
York City?
No, I'm in York, Pennsylvania.
Oh wow. Okay. For some reason I thought you were in no, that's WebLinker. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
are you
Yeah.
a mod on the SEO subreddit yet?
No, I was
They got to
never
make you a
never asked to
mod.
be.
They got to make you a mod. You're like a legend on there.
Um, I used to be a mod back years ago on Warrior Forum
Oh
for the
wow.
SEO section before they changed ownership. Um, Modding is it's a thankless job, and it's
Yeah.
something. I mean, I spend so much time just dealing with people fighting with each other and personal arguments and just
Yeah.
nasty stuff, going through DMs and things. And it was just constantly like putting out fires and dealing with children. It felt like. Um, I don't know if they asked me to be a mod, I don't think I would accept it, to be honest. It's a lot of thankless work, and it's just you know
I didn't,
I
actually I didn't realize that it would be such a time intensive job.
it depends on the size of the forum, which I think that subreddit now is
It's big.
400,000
Yeah.
members. I don't know how many are active, on any given day because it's been there for years. I mean, there was another user that started it years ago and lost it to the current owners because he was sick for a while or something, and they put in a
Wow.
request to take it, and
Wow.
he didn't see the request to answer it, so they got control of it. Um,
Wow.
yeah, which is I feel bad for him because he spent years building it up. Um, but I had also I'd suggested to him he never had a mod on his team. I told him like you need to get some mods just in case something happens that they can, and he just never would trust
Crazy.
anyone. So, um, yeah, I don't think honestly I like participating in the forums. I like helping people. I like answering questions. I do get some leads from it too, which is great, but that's not the whole reason I got involved on forums. I used to be a lurker years ago, and I honestly thought, this is going back like 15, 20 years. I was like, I don't know enough to participate on these forums. Like all these people know way more than me. And then I started reading more and more, especially like on Warrior Forum, and I was like, wait a minute, this is like people are just sharing things that are just absolute BS and just completely wrong. And so that's what got me to start participating in forums was to just to help people and just to correct things and I just thought there was just too much BS flying around and I've just been doing it ever since, participating in some forums like that just to try to correct some of the nonsense that gets parroted and thrown around out there.
It's always fun to share your comments in the SEO subreddit on this podcast. I have alright.
A lot of people think I'm just like a rude dick, um, but it's just I'm just on forums. I tend to be just short and to the point. Like
Yeah,
I
I
don't fill it with a
wasn't
lot of
sure what you
fluff.
would be like. I'm like talking to you. I'm like, oh, is he gonna
Yeah,
be super straightforward? It's gonna be
nah, but
interesting.
when people meet me, then they're like, "Oh, you're a lot nicer than I thought you'd
Yeah.
be." Yeah, on forums, I just I have limited time, and I'm just trying to make it quick, simple, to the point. I don't fill it with a lot of you know BS and fluff and that kind of things. If I can answer something and the answer, and just a yes no, I'll do that. If it doesn't need an explanation. Um, but I do try to give explanations behind what I suggest and what I answer on there. But I do tend to be kind of blunt to the point, and some people take that the wrong way. But it is what it is.
I think it's fun to share. I wanna ask one more question before we go. It's just a fun topic in general.
Sure.
What are some of your favorite, most creative, or just most practical, but also, I mean, most creative is more interesting, link building tactics?
Um, so one thing I'm working on right now, um, and I got this idea from, um, God, his name just escaped me. I'm actually working with him with his business, and I feel so bad that I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Um, Alex, I can't think of his last name, but anyhow, he he's done this. I won't say it's unique. I think other people have tried to do it, but he is helping people get passive links by producing content that is a lot of like statistics in the industry. So like going back to Minecraft, let's say like we publish a page that includes like how many Minecraft server or how many Minecraft players are there. Um, when did Minecraft release? What's their annual revenue? It's just all these statistics, and the idea behind it is that journalists, when they go to write an article about Minecraft, are going to look for those kind of things. And there's a list of like 40, 50 different stats that are statistics that we found, and hopefully then they're going to link back to the source that they got. That's the idea behind it. And he's had a lot of success with doing this, and um, it's worked really well. He's shown me some examples of past work before I even started working with him. And sometimes if it's a smaller industry, you might get 8 to 10 links over the course of a few months from it. There's other ones, 50, 60, 70 links coming in if it's a more popular topic. But it's something rather than, it's I say it's passive because you're just kind of putting something up on your site, hoping that people will link to it. So it's not something where you're doing outreach and trying to grab people.
I've seen the craziest stuff with exploding topics. I think Brian Dean started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's a good example. I've seen black hats who I've literally seen black hats just make up the stats for really interesting things where for things where you're
Yeah,
like, how could somebody possibly know this? Well, they don't. They just made it up.
made it up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then they put up then and that's something we talked about press releases. They put out a press release for that and they share it. They share it in subreddits. They buy upvotes for the post where they share it. Like, and it's completely that's crazy. Yeah,
nonsense.
yeah.
that works. Obviously, I'm doing client work. I can't. I wouldn't even think
Oh,
of doing
I'm
something
not.
like that.
We're not
But yeah,
advocating that,
yeah,
but
no, no, no. But
it
it
is.
works.
Yeah.
And you'll get a lot of links from it. So that's one thing, that I think has worked really well. Um, I think, I'm trying to think some other things we've done for link building. I outsource most of my link building, to be honest. I doing a lot of work right now with BB, the link builder, BB Buzz. Her team does awesome work, and I just kind of turn things over to her when I can. Um, yeah, the statistics thing is probably the newest thing I've been doing this year, and that's had some pretty good results, and I've used the same concept on
How are
other
you getting the
clients.
stats? Like, what sort of methods?
Um, I don't have it in front of me, but there's a couple websites that we go to that publish a lot of stats. It depends on the industry. Like there's sometimes it's just government sites that you can find all these stats on, depending what the niche is.
And basically, you
Um,
compile them, and they look nice.
yeah, and there's some things you do on the page, on page to try to add some good headings and things to try to get it to rank. You try to put it somewhere prominent on the site. Ideally, if you can link to it from the navigation, great. That doesn't always make sense, and it's not always the best thing for the brand. But you try to find places that you can link to it and get it ranking. It's not something, a lot of the sites I work with are established brands, so it's something, we can put that kind of content out there, and it's generally gonna rank decently. Um, it's not something a brand new website could necessarily do unless there's, it's a fairly new market and there's not a lot of competition out there. Um, that's something that it works well for established brands though. Um, Yeah, I'm trying to think anything else that we're doing kind of unique. Everything's else is pretty much outreach. Um, one thing I do try to stay on top of is seasonal things or like anything that's in the news that we can use for a client site that's, something that's topical right now. Can we publish something about that and try to get links that way? Can we be one of the first ones publishing a solid piece in the industry about that and get some links that way? So I try to stay on top of that stuff as much as you can, um, to to get links that way. Hopefully, um,
How do you do outreach? That was actually a comment that I got recently on a video. Someone wanted to know more about outreach.
you know, BB would be a better guest for that.
I got.
She'd be
Oh
awesome
yeah,
for
I got
that.
to get her on.
I can connect you
I
guys.
would love that.
BB's awesome. Um,
I would love that. Thank
she's
you.
one of my favorite people in the industry. Half the time when I do calls with her, we end up talking for an hour about
Oh,
nothing to do with work.
cool.
So she's great. She's amazing at outreach. I know some things that her team does.
Where is she based?
Netherlands.
Cool.
Um, so she does try to she tries to use real people in the business. Like it's not just anonymous outreach. Like we'll use a CFO or a customer service rep. We'll build a page for them that it links back to, so that they can see like this is a real person. Um, she has some better openings than just, hey, I saw your site and thought you might want to link to ours. Like she gets a conversation going first, and that's what her team does. And before they ever approach the link building side of it, I think it's a more difficult approach and more time consuming approach, but it can be really effective. Versus most people with outreach, they're just blasting out the same generic email to everybody, and I don't think that you know it can work. But it's you got to send out 1,000 emails to get like three responses.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Exactly, that's a good one. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I think she tries to catch them and hook them right at the beginning. I've seen some of her emails that yeah, it's pretty cool things that she'll come up with. Um, and we try to back it with a real person. We're using real people in the business that are reaching out, not just a random John Smith from whatever company. Like we have an actual page built around them. Try to make sure that they have a LinkedIn profile and stuff. That they can see like this is a real person. It's not just. I'm sure you get these emails all the time too. Like I get 20, 30, 40 of these emails a day, get
Yeah.
messages on LinkedIn. I can see
So
right
many.
away that's not even a real person
Mm-hmm.
immediately.
It's
So
lazy.
it's very lazy. LinkedIn is getting so bad for it. Um, I actually have a copied response for all of them that I just send back. So I have a policy that if you connect with me on LinkedIn and immediately try to pitch me something, I will never work with you. That's it's as simple as that.
I think that's a
It
good
drives me
policy.
nuts. It
Yeah.
drives me nuts. Um, at least try to get a conversation going, and then maybe down the road, like, hey, by the way, I do this.
Warm
Um,
me up a little bit. Come on.
yeah,
Solder me up.
get me dinner, a movie,
Yeah.
uh, if you want me to put
Have
out.
me put a few drinks into me and
Um, yeah,
then
yeah.
let's
So
talk.
yeah, that's yeah. LinkedIn's getting just really bad for. Generally, if I even see link builder in the person's title
Mm.
anymore when they try to, I decline them because of that. But
Will you accept a guest post? A high quality guest post.
um,
We promise,
sometime,
sir, it is going to be so high
yeah,
quality.
yeah.
Hello, sir. Hello, dear. The worst ones are the ones that start
Dear
with hello, dear.
God,
Yeah.
oh, that's yeah.
I
As
get
soon as
those
I
all
see
the
that,
time.
I stop reading. As soon as I see that,
Hello, dear.
um, or some of them are trying to start with bro now too.
Oh
Like, hey,
yeah.
bro,
Oh
and
my
I'm just like,
gosh.
we're not bros. I have no
We
idea who
don't
you
we've never
are.
spoken.
No, not once, and I have
Yeah.
no clue who you are. No, no, it's not happening.
Mike, thank you
Um,
so much for coming on. Where should everybody your blog is awesome. It's the
appreciate it.
SEOpub.com.
The SEOpub.com. There's a newsletter there you can sign up for. It's free. It goes out every Tuesday morning. I think this week we just sent out uh, number 235, so it's 235
Wow.
weeks in a row.
Wow. Great.
Site actually started years ago. It used to be, again, I was mad at all the bad information out there, so I would just publish like practical tips and ideas, and then monthly I would do a year of the month review on it too, which is where the SEO Pub kind of tied into that. There's no more beer reviews, but yeah, just a weekly
Okay.
newsletter goes out every single Tuesday. Um, yeah, that's the best place
I was gonna
to
say
find me.
best beer in Philadelphia.
Wow. In Philly, I don't know best beer, but best bar I've been to is oh God, I just forgot the name of it. It's like the oldest bar in Philly. It's an Irish bar.
Oh
Um,
wait, yeah,
it's
yeah,
right
yeah.
by my stepdaughter lives. It's like
Wait, you
right
said
around the corner
you're
from
in
her.
no, you're in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
about 2 hours from Philly.
Yeah, okay.
Um, I can't think of the name of it now. I can't believe it. I follow them on Facebook too. I see their posts all the time. But yeah, it's right near like the area where like the museum is and all that, and right in downtown Philly.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, thank you again for coming on. And stick
Appreciate it.
around after I hit stop as it'll have to upload.
Sure.
And yeah, everyone,
Yeah,
this is episode 779 of the Edward Show.
that's awesome.
779. Yo, this is 779 days in a row without, wait, is it 79 or I'm losing count? Yeah, I think it's 79 without missing a day.
Wow,
779 shows in a row without or a 780. I'm losing count without missing a day. Thank you,
that is
everyone.
awesome.
Yeah, and thank you, Mike. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you for listening. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.